Here we go. Let's check the stream, make sure. All right. Shout out Brian. Up as early as I am today. Welcome. When is this showing up? A little bit of a delay here. Stream looks good. Sounds good, I'm assuming. Otherwise, I'd see the complaints. All right. Happy Sunday. Welcome to the stream. Very early. Anyone in here, God bless you for having this level of commitment to coming here to watch me lose money on these picks. You guys are all aces in my book. Next stream, heads up on that, is going to be tomorrow morning at, well, East Coast, 1 p.m., West Coast, 10 a.m. We're going to preview Alabama, Oklahoma. Should have had some coffee this morning. Going to preview Alabama, Ohio State, sides, totals, props, all that good stuff. And then if there's anything on the NBA or college basketball card that's worth mentioning, we'll bring that in as well. We'll probably also talk about some opening lines for next week's divisional round matchups too. So that's going to be tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Yeah, we'll start with the lines. We'll do the college football game, and then any bonus stuff will get worked in there as well. Yesterday didn't go too hot. 2 and 4. The Buffalo first half was a miracle, and once that ended up cashing, probably should have realized the rest of the day could have been a struggle. Russell Wilson under passing yards was a smash, so those were the winners. Seahawks Rams under. We got a great first quarter and a great third quarter, and a decent fourth quarter. Well, no, actually not at the end, but a decent first and third. Like, that's what you needed. Big mistakes. That'll happen. DK Metcalf's under receiving yards. Ramsey locked him up. I mean, the dude lost it on the sidelines, and some are suggesting that because there's no fans in the stands, Metcalf going nuts, yelling and screaming how they can't get him the ball, that the Rams heard that, and that maybe they thought they might try to force one to him, which is why they went pick 6 the other way on that bubble pass. So keep that one in mind. Ramsey did a great job, but one big play will kill you there, so that was a loser. Brady didn't throw an INT. Washington's pass rush. Oh, my God. Has Tampa Bay just been lying in wait all season long? Like, where was Washington? Every single team that can get pressure this season went against Brady and made him look awful. And last night, he looked fantastic. Heineke looked fantastic as well. Give him plenty of credit. But they didn't. I mean, Chase Young, all hat, no cattle, all that talk. Did he even get to Brady last night? And then the Washington Tampa Bay under was another play as well. So 153, 189, and 2 overall, 36 under. Good grief. Got to get something going here before the Super Bowl. One little note about what we saw yesterday and whether or not it's going to carry over to today. Did you notice the penalty situation in the 3 games? One of the 2 teams, I think it may have been the Seahawks, got penalized a bunch. But in terms of penalties that were enforced, we only saw, bring this up, it's on the previous page of notes, or it's 2 pages ago, or it's in front of me, whatever, I have the averages. During the regular season, there were an average of 11.2 penalties per game enforced, 11.2, so roughly like 5.5 per team. Yesterday, instead of 11.2 penalties being enforced per game, that number fell to 6.6. The first and third game had barely any penalties. The middle game had some. Now, it's 3 games, but it's also the playoffs. And I kind of go on this little rant every year right before the Super Bowl about how one thing we'll never do is praise officials. Like, that's impossible. As an official, there's only 2 things that can happen. 1, we attack you and say that you're awful at what you do and you blew the call. Or 2, we don't talk about you at all. That's actually a compliment. In the officiating world, the less people are talking about you, the better. It's the same thing as an offensive lineman. I always use Orlando Pace as the example. Orlando Pace was a Heisman finalist at Ohio State. He comes out of Ohio State. He gets drafted by the Rams. No one talks about him for 20 years. He goes to the Hall of Fame. And that's it. If you're an O-lineman, you don't want anyone talking about you because it means you probably gave up a big sack or you've been playing awful or you're injured. Like, no one really ever focuses on compliments for the offensive line. Maybe as a whole, like a few years ago, Dallas has a great offensive line, but you wouldn't hear people singling out one offensive lineman and talking about how great he is. Very, very rare. Quarterbacks, you make one throw, everyone's talking about you, right? Look at how much people love Josh Allen this year, and rightfully so. So it's the same thing with officials. You don't want to be discussed. And my theory is that the NFL, and it's just a theory, and I don't think there's anything wrong with this. They tell the officials going into the Super Bowl, we don't want you to be the story the next day, right? Like we've had so many games like that before. I remember that game with, what was it, Jesse James, the tight end from Pittsburgh. They were hosting New England. It was a Sunday afternoon game, whether or not he caught it when he was in the end zone. And we spent the whole week talking about the catch rules and the touchdown and all that stuff. And that's not the only time that's happened. Dez Bryant in the playoffs against what? The Packers. How many years ago? That whole fiasco, that was what? That was the 14 season, 15 playoffs. I remember I just moved to San Francisco. I was watching it at Pete's right by AT&T Park, now Oracle Park. Shout out Pete's, rest in peace. All that stuff got shut down in the pandemic, losing money. That's a great bar. Was a great bar. So that's the point. I think that much like, as I go on this elongated rant, much like with the Super Bowl, maybe we're coming into the playoffs. Maybe there's no fans. Maybe there's a message out there such as, let's not make this a ref show. Let's not have everyone talking about the officiating tomorrow. Now, you still have this situation where they ruled a fumble. It's not a fumble. The reviews, they're not going to be perfect. The Buffalo game, everyone was going nuts. The right team won that game. We're good, right? There's going to be mistakes. But that's what I think's happening here. Again, it's only 3 games. I could be wildly wrong. But I came in really liking a lot of unders. And now all of a sudden I'm asking myself, how many more unders do I want to play? Especially with what's going on with some of the lines this morning. So let's get into some of that. Again, next stream is going to be tomorrow, Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. We're going to cover the national championship game, the opening lines, and the early line movement for the divisional round, and maybe some NBA based on what's on the card. So, weather, real quick. First game is going to be in Nashville, 105 Eastern, 38 degrees, cold in Nashville today. No chance really of precipitation. Nothing's in the forecast. 4-mile-an-hour winds. So a cold game. Baltimore, Tennessee should be good to go. New Orleans is the middle game hosting Chicago. It's a dome. We don't have to worry about that. Third game is Pittsburgh hosting Cleveland, 8:15 Eastern, about 32 degrees. Again, minimal chance of precipitation as of now. Winds at 2 to 3 mile an hour. So we're looking pretty solid from a weather perspective, much like yesterday. It might be cold, but we're avoiding wind and precipitation. That's just baked into me after 17 regular season weeks. Baltimore at Tennessee, Baltimore -4.5. That got bet down as low as 3. We saw that popping up, I believe, Friday, and we saw it yesterday as well. Money coming back in on the Ravens today. That's up to 3.5. We all know, as we talked about several times, 3 being a very key number. Everything going on in that wheelhouse is important to keep an eye on. So Baltimore at 3.5. The total in that game opened 55, went down to about 54, 54.5. Now you're seeing 54s across the board. It's under money coming in. This game is just, it looks like an over, right? We know that ever since Tannehill took over in Tennessee midway through last season, it's been nothing but overs for them. Baltimore can score, which I'm going to get to in a little bit. I don't know. Under money coming in. We just talked about the penalties. Careful there. Game number 2, Saints were laying 9.5 with a total of 48. That's up to 10.5. That's just, it's been nothing but Saints money there. And I'd have to imagine there's Saints teasers. There are going to be Saints money line parlays, all that stuff. I don't know how many people are really excited about playing the Bears. Since it's through 10, I'd imagine there's some smarter guys who might get in there and grab the 10.5. Bears have a pretty good defense after all, but line has just been moving up, up, up with the Saints. Total at 48. It came down to 47. Then it went up to 48. Now some 48.5s are popping up. So the over's popping in that game. That's been happening this morning. Final game, Pittsburgh was a 3.5-point favorite. That's up to 6. That happened early in the week with the COVID announcement in Cleveland. Kevin Stefanski's out for that game. Head coach and play caller Joel Bitonio, one of the best pass blocking offensive guards in the business. He's out for that game. Cleveland maybe just got back into the facility yesterday or 2 days ago. They haven't been practicing. Messy situation. We'll get to that. A little bit of over money as well, from 47 to 47.5. So that's where we stand. So we'll get into some picks here, and then we'll get ready to start watching some football. A reminder as well, if you're looking for something interesting during this Ravens-Titans game, we're doing the MegaCast today down at the studio here in Las Vegas. It'll be Doug Kazarian, Tyler Fulgham, and myself anchoring the Las Vegas set. And then we'll be working in conjunction with the NFL Live crew, which is Laura Rutledge, Mina Kimes, Dan Orlovsky, and Marcus Spears. Those four will be handling the bulk of the coverage, but it'll be them and us. They'll throw it over to us. We're going to do a little bit of a pregame show. So this is on ESPN Plus. If you have it, subscribe, log in, do all that stuff while you're watching the game. Put it on your TV, and then this is a little alternative broadcast. Your boy's bringing out the light blue blazer today. Very exciting stuff. So we'll do like a 15-minute show. We'll have about 5 minutes where we'll jump in, give you some props that we like, some of which I'll probably be mentioning here. I'll have others. And then throughout the course of the game, we'll be talking about the in-game wagering aspect. So ESPN Plus, check it out for Ravens-Titans today. All right, so let's get to that game. The first reminder, so I'll just work backwards here. One of the picks from yesterday was a Buffalo Steelers teaser. Buffalo half is through, so now to win that bet, we just need Pittsburgh to win. That's it. It's a pick 'em, and that will complete bet number one. So we talked about that on the stream Friday for yesterday, the Buffalo Steelers teaser. I'm also going to lay the 6 with Pittsburgh. All right, and then I'm going to open a Steelers teaser that I'm going to pair up with Alabama tomorrow night, and I'm going to take Bama from 8 down to 2. So those are your first 3 wagers. Closing out the tease with the Bills, so Bills-Steelers tease, and then a Steelers-Alabama tease, 6-point teasers, and then the Steelers -6. I love the story for Cleveland, but this has that, I want to say that like 2015 or 2016 Raiders playoff run written all over it, where like you've been toiling away for a while, you finally break through, you make it to the playoffs, and then disaster strikes. For the Raiders, it was Derek Carr breaking his leg in week 16. Season went to hell. They end up with the first wild card game against Houston. They get run out of the building. Just terrible. Terrible for all Raider fans. Everything about that situation. That's kind of what this feels like. Cleveland wins 11 games, hell of a season. Everything's going the right way. Then COVID ravishes the team. You can't practice, all that stuff. It feels like the bookmakers are just baiting me with this. Maybe Cleveland shows up. I don't see it happening. There are plenty of concerns with how Pittsburgh has played down the stretch. Plenty of concerns. But there's a few things I like about it. Number one, 2 weeks ago, heading into week 17 against Cleveland, they basically said, we're looking to the playoffs. We're done. Roethlisberger rest. TJ Watt rest. Cam Hayward rest. Right? Like the mindset in Pittsburgh was, we're going to send out the JV squad to try to handle the Browns. But by and large, we're looking ahead to the playoffs. So the mindset in the organization for 2 weeks has been thinking about the playoffs. That's not the case with Cleveland. Cleveland had to handle their business in week 17, right? They were in that playoff hunt, so they had to get by Mason Rudolph and the Steelers. It didn't look good. It came down to a 2-point conversion that the Steelers failed on. Maybe a little PI there, but whatever. You're not going to get that call, Mason Rudolph. Plus, society wants the Browns in the playoffs. We want a story like that this year. I made plenty of jokes at their expense, but it's awesome to see them in the playoffs. It sucks that this is the situation. But if I bet it and I lose and they win that game, hell, all right, let's go to the next round. But that's the thing. They haven't been able to practice. They got the COVID thing hanging over the organization. You can't tell me that Kevin Stefanski's a front runner for coach of the year, and then when you take him out of the equation, it's not going to mean something. He's also their play caller. We saw what happened when Trevor Lawrence lost his play caller in the semifinal against Ohio State. I was on the wrong end of that one. Now, that's college versus the pros, but it's going to mean something here. It was a 2-point move from 4 to 6. So he's out of the equation. And then Joel Bitonio, who we talked about earlier, he's number 1 in the NFL amongst offensive guards in win rate on passing downs. You're going against the best pass rush in the NFL. So Mayfield's down his head coach, his play caller, and one of his best linemen who excels in pass blocking against the best pass rush in the business. That's going to be a problem for the Cleveland offense. That's going to be a huge problem. And then conversely, Olivier Vernon has an Achilles injury for the Browns. He's one of their pass rushers. He's out. They're a mid-level pass rush at best to begin with. I know Garrett's nasty, but the rest of the unit isn't that great. So he's off it. If you're not able to rattle Big Ben back there, he'll pick you apart. He's had 2 weeks to get ready. This might be the final playoff run. He's not going out like that. They've won 17 straight at home against Cleveland. He's not going to get kicked out of the playoffs and potentially his last game by the Browns. So all that stuff factors in. I think you get a good effort from Pittsburgh, and I'm hoping it looks good, because then I want to take Buffalo next week. Because I think if Pittsburgh looks really good, Buffalo won, but it wasn't like that blowout win, people will look at that and be like, Steelers are back. Steelers are going to get them. Buffalo's not ready. And then Buffalo gets them next week. I want a good price on that game. So first 3 essentially are, we're closing the Buffalo teaser with the Steelers, which we talked about Friday. So the Steelers just need to win that. Steelers, Alabama in a teaser. Steelers will be a pick'em, Alabama -2. And then Pittsburgh -6. I'm laying the points there as well. So since we're working backwards, we'll go to the Saints-Bears game. I only have one pick on this game. I am going to play the under. And right now, 48.5 is available at most places. So we'll call it 48.5. Gave this out on Daily Wager at 47. I'm not expecting much from Chicago's offense. That's what this comes down to. The Saints can score, even though Chicago plays some good defense, but there's not a whole lot from the Chicago offense I expect. Now, people will say, well, Chicago's playing good at the end of the season. They were, but look at the competition. That 3-game winning streak came against Houston, Minnesota, and Jacksonville. Those three teams, finished the season a combined 12-36. 12-36. And they all ranked 24th or worse in pass defense. So, of course, Trubisky was going to look good. Then what happened in Week 17 when they stepped up in class against the Packers, right? They score 16 points. Trubisky throws no touchdown passes, an interception. They get shellacked by Green Bay. That's the thing with the Bears. They're pretty easy to figure out. Against average to below average teams, they can win, should win, and oftentimes do win. Against good teams, they don't win. That's it, unfortunately. They played the Saints earlier this year. They fought them close in Chicago, but they did not win that game. They sometimes fight Green Bay close, but they don't win those games. So that's ultimately where we are. This is a big step up in class. Pressure, all that stuff. New Orleans has a fantastic defense. I'm not expecting a lot from the Chicago offense. New Orleans may score, but then eventually it gets to a point where if you're up big, and they're 10.5-point favorites, run that clock out, get the hell out of there, move on to next week. And if you win, they will be facing, I think they get the Rams, and then Brady and the Bucks would go to the 5. No, so it would be Rams at Green Bay, and then Brady and the Bucks for the third installment would be in New Orleans. That would be pretty awesome because Brady and the Bucks got hammered twice by them. That's a good game. Yeah, Brady and the Bucks at Green Bay is a good game too. I don't know if anyone wants to see Jared Goff. I mean, good God. Like, come on, man. Make a couple plays. All right. So that's it for that game. The MegaCast game, which I'm departing here to get down to the studio right after this. A handful of plays on this game. In fact, a lot of plays on this game. First thing out is Lamar Jackson over 28.5 passing attempts. Jackson only averages 25 passing attempts per game. Bookmakers have this at 28.5. Right? You average 25. We're going that far above the average here. Translation, Tennessee's defense, passing-wise, has been very, very suspect this year. And if Jackson's going to beat him, he's going to have to throw the ball. I don't see Baltimore being able to come out, run the ball at will, not have to worry about passing the ball, and they'll get by Tennessee. They have problems with Tennessee. Maybe they win today. Maybe they get over the hump. Money's coming in on them. That's what it suggests. But Jackson's going to have to beat them through the air. And Tennessee is going to put their points up. I don't see how that offense is all of a sudden just going to stop scoring. When you've got Henry, I mean, look, you either have to try to limit Henry, you got to stop Henry. Tannehill will beat you deep. You want to stop the passing game, Henry's going to eat you up. You want to do half measures for each, you're going to be in trouble either way, right? They're going to get theirs. So Jackson's going to be throwing. I think the bookmakers set the number very high. I'm still going to play it over 28.5 passing attempts. He's going to have to throw in this game. And Tennessee, in terms of pace, is second in the NFL. They move pretty quick. Baltimore's a snail. They're like 31st in pace. They take plenty of time. But Tennessee moves quick. So should be plenty of opportunities there. Tannehill, over 234.5 passing yards. This is not that many. Last year in the playoffs, people will throw up his numbers. He didn't throw for many yards at all because they were leaning on Derrick Henry. That's not going to happen today. I don't think Baltimore's sitting back all week saying, you know what, if we're going to lose to these guys 3 in a row, we might as well let Derrick Henry feast on us 3 games in a row. There's got to be an emphasis on this. Like, if you're in that defensive meeting room, how do you want to go down? Do you want to go down because Derrick Henry ate you up again? Or do you want to go down because you somewhat limited Henry, who, by the way, monster prop numbers, 120 rushing yards, 26.5 carries. That's insane. I kind of wanted to play some unders there, but I'm not going to do that. You got to have an emphasis on him. And then you've got to leave it up to the secondary where you've got some guys who can play back there to go out and make plays. That's it. So I think Tannehill is going to have to make some big plays in this game. And that's why I'm going with him. At 234.5. When they got together back in week 11, he surpassed this number. I know that game. I think that game had overtime. So you got to factor that into the equation as well. But I like him in this game to have to throw the ball a lot, especially if the money's on Tennessee or Baltimore. and Baltimore gets a lead, Baltimore's usually not playing with the lead. Like last year in the playoffs, they didn't play with the lead against these guys. Tennessee's playing from behind. They'll continue to run, but they're going to have to open it up in the passing game as well. So Tannehill over 234.5. I got a tackles prop here. Chuck Clark, Ravens safety, under 6.5 tackles. All right, so I was looking at this one last night. I told myself I want at least one tackle prop in the equation today. Here's what I came up with regards to Chuck Clark. So the prop is 6.5. His average for the season is 6. All right, average for the season is 6. So it's not like he gets here on a routine basis. Now, he's gotten to 7 or more tackles, which would be an over here, in just 5 of 16 games. That's it. 5 of 16 games this season, he's eclipsed this number. Now, in those 5 games, he played an average of 71 snaps. An average of 71 snaps, and he played 67 or more snaps in 4 of those 5 games. That's a pretty high number. And if you're going to go over on a tackle prop, you're going to want your guy out there as much as humanly possible making tackles. Tennessee, despite how fast they move, they also have big play capabilities. They're only averaging 64 snaps per game. That's 17th in the NFL. That's a bit below average. So what we see from Clark is that he doesn't hit 7 tackles much. He only did it 5 times in 16 games. And in the times he did it, he was averaging about 70-plus snaps per. 4 of those 5 games, he was out there for 67 or more snaps. Tennessee's only averaging 64 snaps per game. And again, Baltimore moves at a very slow pace. So to get to 7 tackles, sometimes, this could be a total crapshoot. You could rack up 2 in a row on the opening possession and we can be screwed. But the way this all sets up, I like the under. Chuck Clark under 6.5 tackles. What else we got here? I see people talking about Baltimore first half. I'm going to lean into that as well. I'm going to play Baltimore in the first quarter, which is minus -0.5 point. And I'm also going to play over 10 points in the first quarter. Mainly, what was that? Baltimore's the best first quarter team, second best first quarter team in the business. They're first in first quarter scoring, second in first quarter scoring, I believe, but they're like first in first quarter defense. Their scoring margin, the only team that's doing better. Let me bring this up. Why don't I just get the notes up rather than ramble with what I think I remember? All right. Yeah. So I got it confused with the Packers for the first half. Baltimore scoring more points in the first quarter than anybody else. Baltimore giving up fewer points in the first quarter than anybody else. Tennessee is 18th in first quarter points allowed. I like Baltimore, especially on the script with Jackson, to get points early. Now, at the same time, I want to go over 10 points in the first quarter. These two teams are both top 5 in first quarter scoring. Ravens are 1, Tennessee's 5, right? So that could hurt on the -0.5 point with the Ravens, but Baltimore's hit 10 or more points. Their games have featured 10 or more points in the first quarter in 11 of 16 games, 9 of 16 for Tennessee. So I'm playing into that as well. Those were the final 2. I want to just have action right out of the gate as soon as this whole thing starts. So let's recap it. We're closing the Buffalo teaser with Pittsburgh. That's a pick 'em. So Pittsburgh wins the game. That's a winning bet. Opening a new teaser, Pittsburgh pick 'em with Alabama -2 tomorrow night. We're going to play Pittsburgh -6, lay the points there. Saints Bears under 48.5. And then in the first game, it's going to be Lamar Jackson over 28.5 passing attempts. Ryan Tannehill over 234.5 passing yards. Chuck Clark under 6.5 tackles. That's combined tackles, solo plus assisted. And then in the first quarter, Baltimore -0.5 point and Baltimore, Tennessee over 10 points in the first quarter. Thank you as always for coming. Thanks for getting up so early. This is the earliest I think we've ever done one of these. You guys are awesome. So enjoy the games today. Good luck. And I will see you tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. We'll go over all the opening lines and line movements for the divisional round. We'll preview Ohio State, Alabama, get some props involved for that one. We might look at some NBA as well. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.